Welcome back, familia, to the Collazo Show. This is your host, Ray Collazo. The Collazo Show exclusively live in full effect on Substack. We're these are analysis and conversations on the intersection of leadership, politics, y cultura. And this is the punto you want to stand on right now, because there's nothing hotter than the conversation about we're sort of getting our breath back from yesterday's historic Bad Bunny appearance and really opus epic performance at the Super Bowl 60. His performance certainly overshadowed a pretty mediocre football game. Much respect to the Seahawks, though. We're happy they won. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, you can follow the Collazo Show exclusively on Substack. So I released the show first on Substack, and then you see later on in the day, you'll see clips and episodes on our YouTube. So you can definitely also follow the Collazo Show. But I encourage people to follow the Collazo Show, subscribe to the Collazo Show on Substack so we can develop this community, to build this platform so we can have space to have these conversations with leaders very analogous to the moment we had yesterday that many of you probably haven't seen Puerto Rican and Latino voices elevated to that level. And obviously we can see from Benito's performance and the conversation you're going to witness with our incredible panel, we have a lot to say. First person I want to introduce onto our show to talk everything Bad Bunny, our personal reflections, just sort of discussing some of our highlights, so many little details that we're still learning about that he inserted into this incredible performance by not just him, but just an incredible group of people. There's obviously the politics of Bad Bunny versus Trump. What does this mean for the immigration conversation? What does it mean for sort of Latino politics and Latino power in general in this country? What does it mean for Puerto Rico? It's a whole other part of this conversation. But, we want to celebrate who we are and keep that conversation going, because it's wonderful. As much as we honor a Bad Bunny tonight, it's like Public Enemy said, it's going to take a nation a million holds us back, because there's a whole lot of us that have a lot to say that are part of this movement. First person that I want to introduce to the city councilwoman from St. Louis, Missouri, Daniela Velasquez. Daniela, good evening, councilwoman.
Hey.
Alderwoman, I'm sorry. Midwest people have this funny name for council people. Alderwoman. One day I'll learn what that's about. Daniela, how are you out there?
Change it, but they thought it was a little too woke to go to council person, so we're working on that.
I like that. Next person up to bat. Me and Daniela met this fella at the DNC last summer in Chicago, or a couple summers ago in Chicago, and turns to find out he's not only one of our foremost sort of culture critics and historians, content creators, activist, organizer, but the first Puerto Rican ever have a full-fledged run for president in the United States in the Democratic primary 2024, and a great friend to the show, my main man, long time no see, Frankie Lozada. ¿Y qué, Frankie?
¿Qué es lo que hay?
You know how it is.
Happy to be here, baby.
It's better we're doing it this way, because if not, we would be under the cover scrolling incessantly, just trying to find someone to talk to about this. Last but not least, another dear brother of mine, who you're going to be seeing a lot more, not just on the Collazo Show, but in the national leadership community. The newest, I'm very proud to say, and executive president CEO of Aspira on a national level. Came up the hard way from Brick City, Newark, New Jersey, doing big things on a national level right now. Carlos Valentini, ¿qué, brother? What's up, bro?
Gracias, brother. Thank you for having me, and thank you to the rest of the panel. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
It's a great group. All right. I will start to say that Bad Bunny's done so much that he's inspired me to wear our very swag. And, the people that know me know I'm kind of into being Puerto Rican, like many of us are. But I'm not necessarily like a merch person. I was amazed how many people had this special merch just for Benito Bowl. With all the conversations. So much respect to my dad who got me this Humacao hat. He was born in Humacao, so much respect to La H and Hilario Carrillo and that crew. So a lot to discuss. Councilwoman, we're going to start with you. Just your initial, it's been about 24 hours. Just your initial thoughts about what we witnessed yesterday.
I mean, it was historic. I mean, I've been all day, I've been talking to anybody I talk to. I'm like, here's 3 Puerto Rican facts you didn't know. And here's what you saw last night. I think just seeing our symbols, our culture, and in a real way, an authentic way on the big stage, done in a multi-million-dollar set. I mean, it was just, it was incredible. I found myself in tears. I found myself in a group. We had bomba playing earlier in the night. We had, drums and it was football, right? So it was really beautiful. I mean, it was incredible.
On a personal level, it all hits us a little different, right? Because there's folks that grew up on the island and maybe still live on the island, and that's a certain experience. Kind of remember Benito from the SoundCloud days. And then there's folks that have left the island over the last, more recent history. That's a different yearning. There's people like us, born and raised here, but in the case like people like Carlos and I think Frankie, like kind of grew up in large diaspora communities. We grew up in basically like little Puerto Ricos. And then there's people like you, Daniela, que crió in St. Louis. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm curious, like, I know that just from our friendship that it's not only a political activist journey for you, but it's a personal identity journey in a sense. So I can imagine that must have made it even more special.
Yeah, I found myself looking through pictures, and I was asking my mom to scan them, but I have these pictures of me and my uncle. Gosh, it must have been 94. I went to the island for my other uncle's funeral, and there are pictures of him and his, his wife beater and his shorts in the backyard with a machete, cutting down sugar cane so I could taste it and see it. And when I look back at these pictures, it almost looks so much like the set, right? And I think part of the actual set journey was, it almost felt like my family story, right? Because Rafa's right. Like my parents were both born there on the island. My dad didn't move to New York, Nueva York, till he was 12. My mom moved when she was 3, so I didn't experience it. But they, they did during that time. So like going back to like kind of the island, back to the community, and then seeing it, and then actually having it in a way that I didn't have to explain it for the first time. Like, I mean, I did a little bit because telling people what it was, but I didn't have to. And it made me reflect a lot about, family and my own story, my own personal story, but how that story, like he really told it just in the visuals, in the set. I mean, it's exotic to Missouri, but it's most of our stories. Most of our migration stories.
The Nueva York segment hit on that, right? In terms of, it's New York, but any urban Puerto Rican that grew up like that with bodegas and barbershops and social clubs and speakeasies that were the unofficial social clubs. And, I mean, there's just so much to it. Frankie, I know you're someone that studies this and loves to give us kind of a big picture perspective on it, brother. I know there was so much to unpack, Pop. I mean, I know you must have been going crazy trying to research and make sure you didn't miss any little details. Insane.
I haven't even gotten to that point yet because I'm watching it over, and every time I watch it, I notice more and more and more. And I had the blessing to go when he threw the residency show in July for the residents. I got the opportunity to go twice. And so I got to see it even both times. Once again, I noticed different things, and I'm glad I got that experience because I know from a fact that he condensed so much into so little in the Super Bowl show, and he did such a tremendous job. I know a lot of people are saying it was rushed, but there's so much you could do in the first 16 minutes or so. But minor details that they strategically used every single time. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but right before Lady Gaga got on, he played Monaco. And the words in Monaco was, Dime, esto lo que tú querías. And immediately shut off to somebody speaking English and Lady Gaga performing.
Damn, I need to pick up on that.
Yeah. Dog. He said, Dime, esto lo que tú querías, and went right to her. And it was phenomenal because you got to understand Bad Bunny's history too. He didn't start as this progressive, move maker. He started as a trap rapper. And so his beginning music, I didn't really like, I'll admit it. It was a little too hood for me. I didn't like the violent rhetoric that came with that kind of music. I kind of like when reggaeton started making that transition out. And so he had the opportunity to use any spectrum of work that he had to send any message that he wanted to. He could have fired back at everybody else. And instead he chose the one thing that he felt was the most powerful thing, which was love completely. And one of the most powerful moments, the one I cried as soon as I knew what it was. I know everybody was saying that it was the kid from, it was Liam, the little kid who was detained by ICE. I didn't even see it like that. If that was the case, it was great, but it wasn't him. It was a little younger version of him. And I didn't even take it as younger Bad Bunny. I took it as he took that Grammy and gave it to any Puerto Rican, to all of us, to, it was our opportunity to be able to have, anybody could do it. If I could do it, you can do it. And I won this Grammy for you and for the future of everybody to come to not stop believing in yourself. Now that I found out that it was supposed to be a younger version, even deeper meaning. And I thought it was unique that everybody thought that little kid was Liam from Minneapolis, because even though it wasn't, what a great feeling for them to think that that would be something Bad Bunny would do. And even the idea of it, like not one single person really doubted that logic of it. And that just shows you the type of human he is. And like the one other time where I legit almost burst into tears, and I might even get emotional now, is one, obviously you saw he used the light blue flag, which is obviously his political of it.
Few of us were waiting for that one, I noticed it first in the New York street scene.
Yep.
I didn't notice it in the other, but yeah, that's what I was looking for. It came,
Yeah,
a lot of cues there.
He pushes his narrative all the time, and either way, like I don't care what political spectrum you are when it comes to Puerto Rico. Like I just pray you have a voice. That's all it is. And Bad Bunny, that's his decision, and I'm grateful that he's opening spaces for us to have these conversations. But the last part that really, really got me is when he's sitting there with the flag in the middle of the field. And that resonated with me because he didn't sing La Mudanza, but there is a song, part of the song in La Mudanza where he says, "Aquí mataron gente por sacarse la bandera. Por eso ahora yo la llevo por donde quiera." And to think that he had that he didn't say it there, but he has that lyric that exists in the universe, and he's sitting on the biggest stage in the world holding that flag that was once illegal, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And it's just, I can go on, but I don't want to hog the whole thing, but it was incredible. And I really, really enjoyed it.
You hit on a piece, Frankie, I want to dive into with this because I guess, and look, I'm just a supporter of the arts. I have a brother that raps, and I know a lot of artists. We hang out a lot of artists, but I just enjoy it. But so, from a fan's perspective, what makes art truly great is that I can look at this sculpture, and Daniela can look at this sculpture, and Frankie can look at this sculpture, and Carlo look at this sculpture, or in this case, this performance or these moments, and have a different interpretation and look at it from a different perspective. So I want to go to you, Carlos, because you got to see this as like a activist, as a music lover, as a Puerto Rican from down the way, as a dad of an artist. So someone that's worked with young people, a lot of entertainers, through the arts and create, tapping into their creativity to help them progress. So I know that your mind was evaluating this on a lot of levels, Carlos.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that, because not only was I looking at it through my lens, but I was watching it with my 13-year-old daughter, who's a creative spirit. So being someone born and raised in Newark, there were a lot of themes that he touched on, right? That, told the experience that I had growing up as a Puerto Rican in the hood. Like, for example, one of my favorite scenes, and it was a little overlooked, but when the little kid is laying down on the chairs, sleeping, we all did that. I mean, I don't care who you are.
That's the one that popped for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the one that popped.
Bro, we were all that kid at some point. And, showing that to my daughter, it's like, yeah, that's a funny thing. And, there were these common threads that were woven throughout the entire performance, where whether you were, raised on the mainland or raised on the island, you connected with that, you identified with that. And that was one of the things that I loved. What he did was, I think he told the story of what it's like to be Puerto Rican. He told it from a lot of different perspectives, and he crammed it into this performance where whether you grew up here, you grew up there, you could identify. You're like, wow, that hits home. I feel proud. That's my story. And but he was also doing that to show everybody else, this is who we are. This is our story. And he did it with the music, he did it with the visuals, the little Easter eggs of the people that he had there. I thought it was just phenomenal. And going back to even a few nights earlier when my daughter and I, because she is a creative person, we were watching the Grammys. And going even back to that, when he sat there And he was, he made history. One of the things that stood out to me is that he sat there, he put his hand in his head in his hand, and there was nobody else around him. And I found that a little concerning. I was like, well, why is there nobody else there around him? And noticing what he was wearing, I came across a couple articles. I'm not sure if it's 100% verified, but some of the theories that I saw were that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. And then if you saw his outfit during the performance at halftime, he had the thicker upper body.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I'm listening to what he's doing, and this is a young man who's gone from being a trap rapper to using his platform to be an activist, knowing that it may cost him his life. Nobody's talked about the ramifications. He didn't make a dime off of this, and he's the most wide stream artist in the world. He didn't need the exposure. He's doing this for the message and for what he's really pushing for, which is that message of love. And with all the hate and the division, not only historically the division amongst Latinos, and we can get into this later about, oh, we have papers, they don't, blah blah blah. Him preaching the message of love, and then at the end saying, God bless America, and he schools everybody on what that truly meant. Dude, right now, se me paró los pelos. I'm like, oh my God. And then the message, and I had posted it before after the Grammys. I'm like, when he said, the one thing more powerful than hate is love. Dude, he has every reason to go out there machetero style. F them, vamos a pelear. But his message of love to me, bro, it's humbling, it's powerful, and it's unifying. And so looking at it through all those lenses, talking to my daughter, watching her perspective on that, noticing the things like, why is he sitting at the table by himself, and then having to have those conversations that what you're witnessing is a historical figure for Puerto Ricans that we probably have not had in mainstream American culture. We haven't had our Martin Luther King. We haven't had that figure that commands the attention and is putting their life on the line. That's something that's real, and we're witnessing this in real time. This young man, Benito, what he's doing, it's a sacrifice that I don't even think he's getting credit for. And then the other thing, and one thing I don't want to hog because I can
No,
talk
no,
about
no,
this for a long
no,
time.
no. This
But
is hey,
one of the other
flowing.
things that nobody really talked about are those themes, those serious personal themes of him literally putting his life on the line. But with all this nonsense of people trying to take sides and criticize his use of the Spanish language and all of that, and his refusal to assimilate with his music, people don't talk about the young man. He has his own foundation, the Good Bunny Foundation. He's already been putting in the work in the communities. Nobody's talked about that. And he stood and even used that platform to highlight even that. This young man realizes his place and his responsibility to history. And he's stepping up and taking it. And he's doing it in a way where he's making it, he's putting it in the world's lens, in their face, to say, hey, look at this. This is important. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to let you digest it. And let me tell you, bro, it is the most humbling, proud. It's so many emotions at the same time. But I think we need to put it in its proper perspective in terms of the historical context, what this young man is actually doing.
It's not the conversation today. But what crossed my mind, no, but to this point, so what crossed my mind this week, and I almost felt guilty thinking it, but I'm obsessed with thinking about these topics that relate to Puerto Rican culture and history. Not the conversation today. When I was a kid, well, actually, till a week ago, I always thought, in my lifetime, there will be no icon that even goes close to Clemente in our community. Roberto Clemente's always been kind of like the top icon across everything, across political spectrum, that, and look at all the big, humongous celebrities we've had. But it never crossed my mind in a million years to think, oh, Daddy Yankee or Mark Anthony or J-Lo, you would even put in that category. Bad Bunny going to be in that conversation, fam, because of what you just said, Carlos. I want to get back to Danielle and Frankie and Carlos on the Collazo show, but I want to say this to the point around how every little piece has their perspective. I'm going to ask y'all what y'all favorite moment was that you want to talk about on the show. So, wasn't necessarily my favorite moment, but I want to use it as an example. The one that sticks out to me is the very beginning with the sugarcane plantations in the farm. And it's funny because I could have looked at it 7 different ways, but I didn't look at it from a Puerto Rican lens initially. My thought was he wanted to start the show in a way that was very Puerto Rican, but also very relatable, and showed very subtly the solidarity con lo otro hispano, that work in the agricultural sector. Like that's where my mind went to like activist mode, like US Latino activist. And then I talked to my wife about it, and she said, well, my mind went to the fact that in San Sebastian, Puerto Rico, her great grandfather used to have a big sugarcane farm, and the U.S. government took it from her family, and we've been bitter about it for 100 years. And then my Dominican buddy started texting me, "Coño, empezó con Tito me con todas dembow and the Anthony Santos sample," and it turns out the Yumbo with the guitar is Dominican. It turns out that they filmed that initial segment in the Dominican Republic. So, and then everyone has their own interpretations. So it goes to show that there's so many layers to it that it's going to take some while for all of us to truly digest. Daniela, what was the part of the show that stuck out to you?
I mean, it was the beginning with the fields. I mean, I think, like I said, my family had farms, right? They worked the land and sugarcane and coffee, and it's so interesting because it's a very, I think pan Latino, but it's a very Puerto Rican like visual, right? Like when I went back and looked at those photos, I was like, oh, sorry, I don't know what's going on over here. This is like us. And so
maybe get a call, councilwoman.
I know. I was like, what's going on over here?
Hope it's not too close.
I think for me too, like it's been very much about reflection and family. My dad's going to be 84 this year, and my dad didn't move to Brooklyn until he was 12. And so I asked him, and this is a man that up until like a year ago, I asked him, I was like, well, man, if you really actually walk to school without shoes and you had, one of those old houses where the bathroom, was in the dirt floor, like when did you use a toilet? When did you first do that? It wasn't until he was 12, right? In New York, right? And this is not even a generation. Like this is, I mean, it's close. And so I asked him, I said, hey, did you ever think that you'd see like a pava? Did you ever think that you'd see these things, on the world stage? And he answered me today. He's like, I spent so many years living in different cultures, and I don't really know how to feel about that right now. I mean, and so I honestly, I think the visuals of, I don't want to say the old Puerto Rico, but the life, in El Campo, I mean, to me was like, it's a far away experience for me growing up in the suburbs of St. Louis. And also it's very close. Right. And so that's just what I was kind of thinking, like, what are all these people who never thought there was not even just a Bad Bunny, but never thought they'd be able to, be honored in that way. Like, what are the ancestors thinking, man? Like, I feel like they were probably like, I hope they were dancing, wherever they were. And that's really what that's what I was feeling.
I love that you expanded on that, because it made me think too, like, how many different generations did he cover in that performance? So there's going to be a ton of things that I didn't understand that I now have an opportunity to go. I mean, unfortunately, my grandmother's not around no more. I would have loved for her to have seen this. And I would have loved to get her perspective on it, because, growing up, it's funny. My Spanish sucks now. It's getting better because I've put the work towards it. But I remember my grandmother was this stubborn lady, and she refused to learn English. And she always, every time you would engage her, a mí habla español. Si quiere hablar conmigo, habla español. Yeah. She was the grouchiest, but she was so stubborn and in her ways, and I didn't know why. And I remember going to my first time going to like a legit Puerto Rican Day parade in New York, obviously the biggest one. And I was proud. I was with the movement, and that's what got me so interested in learning about Puerto Rico, because I'm like, why? And the more I learned, the more proud I got, because I'm like, holy crap, this is what we've gone through. This is what we're going through. The sugarcane fields was a big portion of it, because remember that was our livelihood back in Puerto Rico, and then we got pretty much taken advantage of, and there's no sugarcane really there. The agriculture scene, which is one of our biggest exports, is now taken out of context. We don't even need to use it anymore. We're the only island in the Caribbean that imports about 90+% of agriculture, and we have the same land and the same fertilization as everything else of the whole of the Caribbean. But I think, to touch upon what you said, of things you were able to catch and what you could relate to. What I think Bad Bunny did was he did his homework on his own, put it out there, and said, you guys got homework to do. Learn about what this means. Learn about it. And what I love about it even more is even the people who are not Puerto Rican, it opens the door for us to have discussions and to create that. Like we now have so many new people, which is sad, that are learning that we are now U.S. citizens after we've been a colony for 127 years. Like, come on. Little things like that. And it's not even perfect example too is everybody was complaining and all the hate behind it. Oh, Bad Bunny's going to appear in a dress. He's going to be in a dress. He wears a dress. And that goes back to the activism. And I always asked him, I'm like, do you know why he wore a dress? Well, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. It doesn't matter why he wore a dress. He wore a dress because somebody was brutally murdered, for just because they had to live the different lifestyle that they didn't live. And the news reporters refused to name this person by name. And so Bad Bunny made a statement and said, there's no hate in the street. If this is something that you hate, I'm going to replicate that look. If you hate him so much, come get me, because this is going to stop. And he's been that political figure this whole time, and making those messages. And that's why, like, I love the fact that the only really haters who are going to hate on him are people who have different political affiliations on what should the status of Puerto Rico be. They're the only ones. Because obviously we know his stance. Depending on the color of flag you hold, we know where you stand for the most part. And what's very unique is it gave us an opportunity to expand on all these things. Like, I don't even think half the even country realizes that he used a different color flag. It's our job to educate them and say, this is why we do this. This is why we're like this. This is why it's so important. And one of the things that I loved is how many times Bad Bunny intentionally used English. Like, if you didn't notice, he said, welcome to the Careton. You know, little things like that, just to make that known, to say, all right, cool. And then once again, the God Bless America, very intentional. Just wild, man. I've always been so proud, but it's just having the opportunity for other people to feel it and kind of understand. I think it gives them the motivation to be like, yo, I want to be like that. I want to be that kind of proud about my own, you know, my own home. And that sense of inclusivity is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, our culture is full of love and family and togetherness. And I think he did a great job in portraying that to the world. I mean, my best part about the entire thing was the way he wove in the theme of love throughout everything. Even the people that apparently really got married there. Did you guys read about that?
Yeah.
That couple really got married there, dude. That's amazing. You know, the way he was able to incorporate that, the message of unity. I mean, those things to me, I think, really stand out, and as a big part of our culture, but also part of the activist message that he's portraying. He was able to utilize all that, show everybody who we are, where we come from, and yet the theme of love and unity, not only in the family setting, but as people, really shone through in that performance.
I think too. Go ahead.
Oh,
No, I was just gonna say it was different, but I think, and the part of what I've been trying to at least educate people too is, because I went on and I was so excited, I like could not go to sleep last night, and I stayed on kind of trolling on people's comments. So I had a few.
Yeah, you weren't the only one, Daniela. There was a lot of that. Yeah, we were doing a lot of that.
I was like, wow.
And you're gonna have a lot of fun, because as we're doing this, they're going off on Fox. That they're getting full racist. Some of the Jesse Waters just said, "This is an invasion. This is all about the open borders. These people are attacking us."
Who invaded us?
Huh?
Sorry, I said
Jesse
they invaded.
Waters. Yeah. Tell me about it. And they're attacking us every moment.
but that's
3 murders in Minneapolis this year. 2 of them have been nice.
That's the beautiful thing of it, is they can attack us all we want. Like I said, Bad Bunny had every opportunity to fire back, and he chose not to.
Mhm.
And it's funny. I don't know if you guys saw the leaked video from Mar-a-Lago where they were watching the Super Bowl.
They were watching.
Right,
yeah, they were watching.
And it was funny because they, you know, from Truth Social, whether or not he types any of his stuff himself, but there was this whole rant about how terrible of the thing. And the moral of the story is, oh, so you watched it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's right.
You watched it to criticize, and it was interesting. If you piece by piece that Truth Message Social that he posted and see how wrong it was in everything that he said that Bad Bunny represented and what he did, it was wild that there's still anybody that believes anything that he produces. It's crazy.
I mean, there's so many moments, but I think the thing I wanted to mention in this segment is that it's incredible the impact it has on non-Puerto Ricans. And you just saw it, just that last piece he did. Now you talk about a throwback to 45 years ago, maybe when Ruben Blades did this on Plástico, kind of shouting out the nations. And the first group of people that I saw thanking him were the Canadians, because we've been shitting on him as a country. Like, thank you for saying, shouting out. And obviously all the Latinos, especially some of the groups that don't get as much play in the U.S. market, some of the smaller Central South American countries, okay, they're seen. And I don't know if y'all saw John Sutcliffe, who's for Spanish language football fans is like the big ESPN Espanol football commentator. He's the one that interviews guys on the sidelines. And he basically was un mexicano gay. He was in tears because he said, he's been part of this football community forever. It's his career. He's been like the guy trying to push inclusion for Latinos in the Spanish language. And he said, this was the pinnacle of my career, because this validated everything I've done to try to include our community in the American sport. And in this time period, it really hit Los Mexicanos, the immigrant community, like even harder in a way, because how they see it is these Puerto Ricans do have a little more privilege, and they out here repping for us too. So it's a lot of levels. It's a lot of levels. Frankie, jump in there.
And I'm glad you said that, because historically, when you start looking at the young lords and political activist groups like that were Puerto Rican led, a lot of the rights that or Latinos have in this country are because of those organizations, because of that privilege that we had. We weren't able to be taken out of here. So we were like, nah, we're going to make a change. We're going to fight for y'all. We speak the same language, which is interesting because growing up, it was a different rhetoric. We used to have like a lot of shade thrown at us from like Dominicans and other Latinos, because the presumption was we thought we were better than them because we had citizenship. And so now he's flipping that narrative and bringing people together, and the arts and music is a great way to do so. But he's doing exactly what the elders did back in the day when they were in the streets of the Bronx or in Chicago, or maybe in St. Louis. There was chapters out there too, but they were doing the work to make sure that everybody had a voice.
It's interesting because if you really kind of the symbols for where our country is in that sort of this divided time that we have there's kind of like this Trump part of the country that's in this like weird headspace, and they're in a cult, right? Even if they didn't go into it for those reasons, they're in it because, I mean, the whole thing, Epstein, and now, anyway, this is going on and on about the hypocrisy and the lies and just, but hey, they're sticking on to this group that they're in. Then there's like, and that's Trump's America. And then there's other America, which is like multicultural, doesn't want drama, just wants to be left alone, live their lives. They're young, they're energetic. That's like Bad Bunny's America. So it's kind of like even if he didn't intend it, in so many ways, he's become the symbol or the icon or the leader of this movement, which I think is well beyond Latinos, to be honest with you.
Oh, it really is.
Daniela, what do you see as the political impact or the social impact of this performance from your perspective as a city councilwoman in the Midwest?
Well, I was just going to say, but he showed up. I mean, who showed up, right? Who showed up for Kid Rock? 6 million people versus 135 million plus however many streams.
And as I said on my initial feedback show, is that, if you want to know what corporate America thinks is the future of this country and the present, see what they're supporting, because you can't grow. The NFL didn't do this out of the kindness of their heart and make a statement. They're trying to, anything you grow, whether it's football or, you're trying to get people to buy car parts or vacation packages or homes, the growth market is young, diverse women, and so even the NFL, as conservative as an organization as it is, understands that from an economic perspective.
All like green.
That's right.
No, I think a couple things. I mean, I think so for St. Louis, I saw a lot of that message, the things that cross Latinos and cross Latinos and cross, races. Like, I saw on my feed, like, hey, they're talking about our shared experience. They're talking about plantations and slavery and, and joy and expression and like, in the bodega, in the nail salons, in the, where our people are. And I think it's kind of like a flip on, I think, on what you were saying, Frankie. It's almost part of what I saw too. And this is, I think maybe I'm in like education mode. I'm like, for people, I'm going down on all the lists because I used to be a reporter, so I always want to get my facts right. So like I'm going down on like all the reasons our people would have not to have joy, right? Like 27 hours of blackout a year, right? Average Puerto Rican. They pay higher utility bills than anyone else. If they were a state, not saying we want that, but if they were, they'd have the lowest median income. They have double the poverty of Mississippi, right? I'm not saying these things to put our people down. I'm just saying like all these things, and we show up with passion and joy, and we are punching above our weight globally and sharing our culture and our history and our ideas. And in some ways, this country has not been, the US has not been kind to us. I actually saw the Missouri Abortion Action Fund post a story about the birth control trials in Puerto Rico, in Missouri today. It was wild. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. And it's a moment to teach, about what colonialism does and is. And we rise. I mean, we're a resilient, beautiful culture and people who care about each other and all those things. And what? We're still here. So that's kind of what I saw, not necessarily on the policy end, but that is what I've been thinking about today.
Frankie, where do you think this leads us politically? Because it's going to change things. Things are not the same like they were yesterday.
It really isn't. And it's going to be a huge impact. And it's funny because I was just going to release a video. I like to talk to everybody of all different political beliefs. Yes, I lean and identify more progressive and Democrat, but I think that everybody's voice matters 1,000%. And the general consensus from what I get when I speak to a lot of Republicans, I genuinely feel bad for them. I really do. Because with this MAGA movement, they've lost their own identity. Yeah. It's taken over. And the truth of the matter, and so I wanted to make a video basically, and I think this would be the perfect time to have it already scripted down. But basically saying like, I get it. I understand why you voted. You have somebody that's using your party as a platform and using your support, but that doesn't mean that we don't forgive you. Like, it's not too late to say, you know what, I'm going to take back my vote and say I'm not supporting this. Because at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is the MAGA movement made a big statement yesterday by having their halftime show. And the support was non-existent. Let's be real. Half of those numbers were probably inflated or paid people to watch.
Yeah.
Like, that's the truth of the matter is.
And they're also incompetent. They couldn't get it on Twitter. So like they lost half their audience because of their own technical. You mean
to tell me all these parties got all this money and they couldn't put on a major network or do something? 15 minutes of airtime, bro.
Buying power, man. I mean, it's just the reality of it. It's corny,
It is. It was absolutely terrible, and that's what people realized. And I think that was a real turning point, no pun intended, for what's going to happen in the future beliefs. Because now people are starting to realize, like, we spent this whole time hating on this guy who we didn't know. And he's actually pretty good. He comes on and they're like, well, I don't understand what the big hustle about. He didn't wear a dress like we thought he was. He didn't do anything wrong. In fact, he spread a message of love, which I think now is something that we need more than ever because everybody else is focused on trying to pin us all together. I think it's going to be in for a great revelation in this country.
Carlos, how do you see as the new president CEO of Aspira, one of our few Puerto Rican legacy organizations, how do you see this changing how you do business with Aspira? Like it impacts everything.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I think the aspect of unity is huge in this, right? Latinos, it was always very easy to divide us, whether it was the country you're from, whether you speak the language or not. There were always so many little areas where we could be divided very easily. And I think that this really unified the Latino community as a whole and also helped non-Latinos appreciate and understand the importance of joining the movement and unifying with our mission and our goals, because the vitriol that was spewed out there, where people were like hating him because he was speaking Spanish, because of the authenticity that he had towards our culture. I noticed non-Latinos saying, hey, I didn't understand the word of it, I didn't know much about him before, but I don't understand the hate for someone with pride in who he is and where he comes from. And that actually endeared a lot of people. So I think it kind of had a backwards effect to a lot of the antis that were hoping that this would flop. I mean, so from my perspective, I see it, unifying our base, unifying Latinos as a community as a whole, because also when we talk about, the differences, right? Puerto Ricans have citizenship. So a lot of the immigration issues, there was always that divisiveness, like, oh, well, that's not our problem. That's not our, nosotros tenemos papeles, right? That would be the saying. No, that's wrong. And it's an injustice that we can't stand for. Even today, I'll give you an example. Today, I had to go out real quick and go
Liam
to
had
the
his papeles. You know what I
What
mean?
happened?
Liam had his
Yeah.
has his papeles, and they still
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
him in prison.
That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
different conversation to have, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
deal with that
absolutely.
all the time with everybody talking about ICE and don't get involved in their operations. And it's not even the operations that I have a problem with. The problem is if I'm speaking Spanish with somebody out there, that I can be stopped. And that's the problem, is I shouldn't have to prove my papers. I shouldn't have to be randomly stopped to say anything. I don't have an obligation to identify if I've done nothing wrong. And that, I think, is a privilege that some people have, that's the reason why they can't connect with that community, because they're like, well, just show it.
Yeah.
Just show it. Like, I worked a lot at the Mexican border in El Paso. So I crossed through a lot of those checkpoints when I was driving into New Mexico and a lot of the South. And I mean, granted, it's a simple question. You American citizen? And I remember one time I was working with one of my coworkers, and he was half Canadian, French Canadian, half Guatemalan. So he's a little darker skin. I pass through those checkpoints all the time. American citizen? Yes, yes, yes. I get to one when I'm driving with him in the car, and the agent goes, "You American? Both of you?" And I was like, wow. That was the first time I've ever seen it like in person. And I'm like, yo, how insensitive. So it doesn't matter if you have papers or not. If you're getting stopped for absolutely no reason, you're going to find somebody doing something wrong in some capacity.
And
No,
there's
just
a lot of examples of them looking at papers and saying they don't believe it, and it's just
Mhm.
it's just the lawlessness of ICE is out of control. Carlos, you were saying.
Oh no, I was gonna say, just earlier today, I had to step out to get some groceries really quickly, and people in local group chats were saying, "Oh, be careful, ICE is in the area." And as I drove by, the little Salsa King restaurant, the little Spanish restaurant, closed down. The nail salon closed down. And I'm looking at all these Latino businesses. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a shame. But it's real and it affects all of us. So it's frustrating. But just to go back to my thing, how I think it's going to change, I think is going to bring us together, and it's going to. I'm hoping, but it really seems like it's going to awaken the sleeping giant that we've talked about for years politically in the United States.
I think before I want to ask Daniela, her the first person to talk about kind of what Puerto Ricans do next from here. But I do want to share that from a political perspective. I think Benito just gave us all a lot more courage.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing, and this is well before the Benito era, and as all of you on some level, I've had the blessing of being able to organize and work with Latinos all over the country. And I've heard this for 20 years that they're like, coño, man, we really admire y'all Puerto Ricans because y'all are really proud. And y'all give us more ánimo to be proud and more courage to be proud. So that's predating all this era. So I think you're going to see from the celebrity class to, just your, Latinos that are just tired of what's happening in this country on a lot of levels, just having the courage to speak up and be out unapologetically who they are. And that's becoming very difficult for the reasons Frankie just laid out right now. But I think people are going to really take that as a call to say, you were just seen on the biggest platform, and that reaffirmed a lot of pent up. It was like cathartic for people because they felt so beat down, and so now we're having to like not talk and hide our accent and be scared to leave the house, and just uncertainty about the future. And Bad Bunny just gave us a little more courage. Daniela, Councilwoman, where do Puerto Ricans go from here? I think that's kind of, besides Bad Bunny, by the way, erasing, he deleted all his Instagram content today. So everyone's trying to figure out what he's going to do now. Besides what Bad Bunny's going to do next, what are Puerto Ricans going to do next, Daniela? And what should we be doing?
Well, I think we're going to see more flags and more merch if that's possible.
That's a whole other conversation. We're not, but I do want to do a segment or something, because I've gotten around. No, every Puerto Rican community in Puerto Rico and in the mainland has a store that just sells Puerto Rican stuff. I have no idea the business model. I have no idea the business model works. It always is open. They have these, they have everything under the sun. You can buy congas. You can buy, I mean, the bead. I mean, it's just unbelievable how these places thrive. But we make it happen.
So I think a couple things. I think, like you said, I think Bad Bunny gave us courage. I think also, I think telling our story in a way that everybody can relate to, like we said, Puerto Ricans and non-Puerto Ricans alike. But I've always imagined, what would it look like if I could turn Netflix on and I could see stories about, Taino like culture, right? Or mythology. I'm kind of jumping around here, but I think that we'll see, I think one, that there's a call, and I was reading that usually revolutions precede a crisis. A crisis has to push people into things. I'm not saying revolution, but I'm saying we have a crisis on the island. Yeah. I think it's clear, a crisis that can only be resolved if Congress recognizes what we want. And to get Congress to recognize what we want, we have to get the majority of people in the US on the mainland to support that. I mean, that's just, so we have to push this momentum into, making that story accessible for more people, because the only way that I think that we can resolve the crisis is if the US, I know the US is involved, but if the mainland understands. And I think that's Puerto Ricans and non-Puerto Ricans alike. Like, what are we doing on this little island? You love us so much, but we're under your thumb. You got to fix the power grid. You got all the things. I mean, Promesa, all those things. So I think it becomes a rallying cry, or a point where, to change the system as it is, we have to bring in more Latinos. We have to bring in more than Puerto Ricans. And I also think it's a moment for us to stand up and use our voices in a way that, I haven't before. I mean, Rafael's right. Like, I have to explain what pastalones, I've had to explain what these things are. And, maybe there might be a day where people get it, So I hope that we're headed there. What the folks specifically on the island is there's more conversations, and we'll bring some island-based folks in to have those. And many of conversations we all have to be a part of. I think and Frankie, my head goes to the political piece with the midterms in 2026. We just elected, and the Puerto Rican vote was pretty significant in the elections, particularly in New Jersey, but also in Virginia for the governors. Mm-hmm. We've got, and I'll be working on about 15 congressionals around the country, about 5 to 7 of them in the Northeast corridor and places like Florida and even in the Southeast. With thinking about North Carolina and Georgia with a growing Puerto Rican population in the Midwest, the Puerto Rican vote can flip Congress, alone. So, Frankie, there's a lot of organizing. There's a lot of ways we can build off this, and the electoral part's got to be one of them.
1000%. So this upcoming midterms, we are going to lose one of our beloved Puerto Rican congressional members.
Yeah.
And I just announced last week, and this is fueled by Bad Bunny's all that presence, I'm going to run for New York's 4th district against Laura.
Really?
Yeah. This week we're launching everything. The website's up, the logo's done. I'm going to take on Laura Gillen, who's one of the 7 Democrats who voted to fund ICE. And I think that now is the time, if we want.
We need to talk, brother, offline. Okay.
I'm here for it. That's okay. You said all that. I'm like, cool.
I didn't know. Okay, well, we need.
And I'm also working with a collection of Boricua people who are running for office on the state level in Florida. So I'll definitely introduce you to them as well, because I think we serve a wonderful part of this community. We're a mix of, I think, some of the best cultures out there. And I think that's where the responsibility lies with us, to be able to relate to everyone else and be their voice where people cannot be heard. The other thing I think that we need to do is campaign so that people see that they're being represented. Like that's the reason why I ran for president, is because nobody looked like me or sounded like me. So why are you speaking for me? You know, I can't expect you to understand the urgency of things that I need done if you don't have to live it, you don't experience it, you don't understand the necessity for it. So it's important to get us in those spaces to be able to vocalize the true manner that we need things to be fixed. We also need to increase Latino voter turnout because Latinos don't vote. There's so many people. There's, I think, about the eligible vote population of Latinos, I think it's like 40% in that range who are eligible and are not even registered to vote.
Yeah.
And
It's a
so
voter
it's-
registration problem as much as a voter turnout problem, because if
It's-
they're in the
it's
pool,
wild.
we do a decent job getting them out, but we just don't. It's hard to register them. It's true.
It's terrible. And the crazier thing is, like, we're such a prominent, we are the biggest spenders. We love to go and spend money everywhere. We're the biggest spenders in this country.
Businesses.
$3.5 trillion every year, trillion with a T, come out of Latino pockets every year. And we're the most underrepresented. So things have to change. And I think that's where it's coming, is to motivate people, because over the years, we've been so left behind and so disenfranchised. And I think that we need to use this momentum that Bad Bunny said, that, nah, you deserve to be here. You deserve every right that everybody else does. I think that motivation, we got to take it and run with it till the midterms.
I want to shout out two people. You talk about Congress. You're speaking my language, Frankie. We definitely need to talk offline, Pop, for real.
Wait a minute.
But Mayra Rivera Vasquez, who I believe Daniela, we also all met in Chicago, is a Puerto Rican woman. Carlos, she's running for Nancy Mace's congressional seat in South Carolina.
Ooh.
And Nancy's leaving. She's got an opportunity. She's very high ranking in the state Democratic Party, so she's not a newcomer to the game. And so much respect to Maida, and also want to shout out a very good friend of the show, and Lillian Mejia, who just won that. Well, it's not official, but she's going to win that special election for New Jersey 11. She's going to be both the first Dominican and Colombian woman in Congress, and you know she was Bernie's political director in 2020. So you know where she's coming from. And she's a great activist, organizer, labor background, good people. And so to your point, Frankie, and I think you're going to help write this story. And I've been telling the press this for a few months, and they don't listen to me now. It's happening. Is that the story of the first half of the year is going to be these primary elections amongst Democrats that are really going to be the wake up call for politics. Because the Anna-Lilias and the Frankies are going to win. Not going to win all of them, but they're going to win some of these. Carol Obando in Pennsylvania, our friend Brian Varela in New Jersey 7, yourself, some of our Florida friends. So this is a bigger political movement than people realize what's happening. So much respect to you, Frankie. We're going to talk about that. Carlos, I mean, Espira, bro. I mean, Espira's needed more than ever, Pop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think educating our youth in terms of the status of the way things are in the country is very important, but also civic engagement, because the Aspira model is based on leadership through education. So the Aspira clubs are structured to teach kids to understand the parliamentary process, understand about the importance of organizing, getting involved, voting, showing up. So I definitely think that especially us as an organization that's thrived on civic engagement since 1961. I mean, in the vision of our founder, Dr. Antonia Pantoja, I think it's more critical than ever that we're mobilized and engaged as a community. And what I would love to see for Boricuas to do is to go out there and register to vote. To me, that's the most critical piece out of everything. You know, as nonprofit, we're nonpartisan, but the importance of registering and participating in the process. And as an organization, doing voter awareness, making sure people understand the importance and the impact of their vote. It can't be underscored enough, man. I mean, we need to really make sure our people understand the process, participate, and are engaged. You know, like Frankie was saying before, and the alderman, I didn't want to say council person, the alderman mentioned before, we got to get to the polls. We got to get our people registered, which is the hardest thing. But it all starts, one person at a time, one door at a time. But we've got to do it ongoing. That's the other thing. I think we need to break this mentality of, oh, just during election season, right? It's got to be an ongoing process.
Right.
And it's something where Puerto Ricans have politics ingrained in our souls. We need to make sure it's an ongoing thing, not just, okay, so-and-so's about to run now, so let's start doing voter registration. No, to me, that should be par for the course. Every business, every entity, hey, how are you? Oh, are you registered to vote? Yeah, I am. Did you change your name since you registered? Did you move? Because people forget that as well. Little subtle changes can disqualify them from being able to vote, or they can get challenged. And the inconvenience alone turns people off from the voting process. So I think the stressing the importance of voter registration and making it a regular part of how we move about our daily existence, I think is critical.
Before I ask Frankie to start us with the final thoughts, I wanted to share that I want to go back to a point Frankie just made earlier about the fact that that like Republicans, many of them are more conservative leaning voters, are sort of trapped now in this. They don't feel like they have anywhere to go, even the well-intentioned ones, because the reality is that to the point in which we have to register everybody regardless, that the best thing for the Latino community would be a healthy, normal, Republican Party and Democratic Party. People that tried to respond to our needs from their perspectives, and we had connections in both, because that would be what's best in an ideal world. The problem is, they're really not the Democrats. The Democrats got a lot of issues, trust me. But those folks, we got to bring them back. I don't know what else to say about it. But to that point, regardless of your political ideology, or how you want to approach this, we need to get more involved in our community. And not everyone's going to be out in the street blowing whistles at ICE, but we need more of us to do that, including on some level, all of us. And we all need to be doing more of whatever we're going to be doing. Some of us are going to be focused very much on distinct island issues, which is wonderful. And we support our people that defend every inch of sand on those beaches. Porque la playa son del pueblo, and all the other issues related to Luma and all the other local issues on the island. And throughout the diaspora, it's education, and different types of organizing, electoral, what have you. We all just need to be doing our part. And because, as you saw from one of the last things I want to say about the Bad Bunny performance, was that it was so beautiful because it was all about a team. And when you give off that kind of energy, and people that are mega global stars like Karol G and Cardi B and Pedro Pascal are cool with just like being like extras, essentially, like backup dancers, that means that they know it's more than a photo op. They're part of something bigger. And obviously, they cannot do this to us, fam, if we don't let them, unless we let them. Look at the ICE, the makeup of ICE. If there was no Latinos in ICE, they couldn't do it. There's not enough of them to do it. So we all need to be doing our part. But whatever it is, do it, and do it a little bit more. Frankie, your final word to our community. Any thoughts about Benito's show, and where we go from here, brother?
Watch it, learn of it, teach it. Use this as an opportunity to build that community. Come together, and not just ours. Every culture and community that he mentioned, we have them within our own communities. Learn from them. And what I think is going to happen, or what I know is going to happen, is we're so focusing on dividing in this country, but the more you learn about everyone else, you start learning that we're a lot more similar than we believe.
Well said, brother. And best of luck for your congressional run. We'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
Carlos, Espira, the future, our young people. Any shout outs about your daughter, all the wonderful, her career track?
Oh my goodness,
Talk to us, brother. Talk to us.
Casper Slays on all her social medias, Instagram, TikTok. My beautiful 13-year-old daughter, my world, my my heart. She's an amazing young performer who I'm super proud of, and she's also a very proud young Puerto Rican girl who has a bright future. And I'm just honored to be her dad. And I'm also humbled to be serving now as the president and CEO of the Aspira National Association. And it's not a one-person show. There's so many aspirantes that were there before me that laid the groundwork, and I'm just honored to be standing on their shoulders, but also excited to carry the vision forward. Moving forward, we're going to be focusing on education, workforce development, and civic engagement. We're going to continue our charter school initiatives and our alumni network. So if there's anybody watching that was impacted by Aspira at all, please go to our website, www.aspira.org. Reach out. There'll be a platform for you to contact us and capture your information and get you re-engaged with the movement.
Well said, brother. And older woman, you get the last word. You there, Councilwoman? If you're there, Daniela, you're frozen. Come in and out if you need to. I'll say my last word, then you can come back and say yours. I do the show for a lot of reasons. I think on some level, I think it's therapeutic for me, to be honest with you. This makes me feel a little better about things, talking to you all. But part of the reason I do it is because I know how important it is to contribute to this movement that Puerto Ricans got, because it's not just about us, fam. For whatever reason, God gave Puerto Rican something special, and we lead for a lot of, our contribution impacts us, a lot of people, and makes the world a better place. And I don't rap. I'm not a great actor. I can't change a tire hardly. But what I can do is try to give people my perspective on these moments in our history and how they can learn from our history to move forward. And the blessing I have is in this phone, is the network of people I have, like all of y'all. And so I would be greedy, and it wouldn't be right for me to deny our audience and our community a platform to have these conversations with all of y'all. So I encourage us to continue these conversations, whether it's on the Collazo show or wherever, because look at how Benito did it. I mean, he brought an army to the table of incredibly talented people, the violinists, the dancers, and the choreography fan was just unbelievable yesterday. It was just that's one of many highlights. The set designers, the musicians, the couple, whoever, that cake, which was a whole other thing. I knew about the kid sleeping. I had already seen the video, so I knew, but the freaking Puerto Rican humongous ridiculous cake. It's so Puerto Rican. And that's, and then on and on and on. So, we have to, we're a team. And that's one of the things, because of our island, we have that kind of family mentality, I think. And so we have to utilize that blessing to move forward. Daniela, you get the final word. I think you're back.
Yep. Sorry, I had some technical issues. I think you might have said what I was thinking about saying. I was thinking about there's the African word Sankofa. You go back and get it. So you go back in your history to go forward. And I was just thinking about that for us, right? Like, this is a moment where we're reclaiming and acknowledging who we are as a people. And not that we don't already know who we are, but now maybe more of the world knows who we are, right? And we can go out there boldly and change the world. I think you're right that we've got the special sauce, and I think we've been a part of Puerto Rican. I think has been a part of almost every resistance movement in Latin America. Is that what I heard? That there was somebody somewhere who did something. So I mean,
Betances, Albizu.
right? They
we
were all
inspire the world, fam, with our culture too.
Yeah, and I think. So I think we're going to keep, I think that's what we need to keep doing is, I think, like Frankie and Carlos has said, to connect with our people, but also.
Guys, I'll do this. We could talk hours more. This was fantastic. Frankie Lozada, brother, best of luck to your New York congressional run. I'm really excited for you. We're definitely going to connect. Carlos Valentin, president CEO of Aspira. Fam, if all we did this year as a community and part of the Collazo show is help Carlos get Aspira to the heights where it used to be and where it needs to be, and to take it a whole other level, which we're perfectly capable of doing with all of our collective resources, that would be an incredible accomplishment. And that would talk about honoring the legacy of Dr. Antonia Pantoja, which was one of there's no Bad Bunny without her. And it's what we need right now, because we have to support our young people. And think, this is the last thought I want for y'all to have, is that think about all the people in this world right now that, because of Bad Bunny's performance, learned something about themselves. Think about what Ricky Martin cantó Hawaii, and all those people went online in Hawaii and Googled that shit and said, "Oh fuck." No, think about it, right? Just Hawaiians or anybody. Oh shit, they talking about that. And think about it, let's keep it real. Not every Puerto Rican is blessed like that to know the culture and be, like, there's Puerto Ricans that, like, even on the island, that don't, and that learned something, got inspired, and now they got this spark, and they Google something, and now this whole world of things around the history of the colonialism or the culture, the sugarcane stuff, or the multiculturalism, and that their world just expanded and their identity just changed fundamentally after that performance. And those moments, man, that's priceless, fam. That's priceless. You can have all the streams you want, and we got a million people that have a lot of streams and get a party started, but there's only a few special people like that can not only elevate platforms, but then open the doors so the whole crew goes in. So Frankie, Carlos, Daniela, thank you all so much. Subscribe to the Collazo Show exclusively on Substack. But if you really, I really encourage you to follow it here so we can build the community here and keep having these conversations at the intersection of leadership, politics, and cultura. Gracias, familia. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Gracias, hermano. Take care.